Everyone, please! Everyone! Can we keep this private, please? This is my story, my scoop!
Forgery, that's a serious crime.
Drew Misham is known as an artist these days, but there were rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art, meaning forgery?
Drew Misham was talented, alright, talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover.
Criminal elements? What? You can't seriously be talking about...
Exactly! I'm talking about forging evidence!
What?
The rumor started circulating 7 years ago.
Oh, he started forging evidence? In the case 7 years ago? So did whatever happened to Phoenix, was something forged? Or didn't, he present something? Wasn't it that he presented something? I don't remember. This payment of $100,000 was for...
Exactly. Forged evidence nets tidy profit.
Okay. Order, order, order. Why, it's like our victim was living a double life. Aha, this is my chance. Is it? So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. But how do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here. But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Our case was and remains simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned that mug that night. And you, of course.
Hey, the only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing reviews.
Sure. Do you write reviews? I mean, okay. Mr. Brushel, what do you review? Now I'm really curious. Can you imagine this guy as a fucking film critic or something? Doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen.
What are you talking about? My journal is...
Elephants, yes. In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over.
Apollo, what's he talking about?
The cross-examination showed Mr. Brussel didn't have reason or means to poison him. As long as there are no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera, that's what. This next testimony is our last chance. Mr. Brushel, your testimony, please. Here we go. Last chance.
The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And my lips. But wait, I mean, nothing left that studio after he died. Nothing.
What about the letters in the box?
Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter.
I don't buy it. A nice testimony, clear, succinct, and without room for doubt. Oh, I have plenty of room, thank you very much.
Shucks, you really think so?
I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice, you may begin your final cross-examination. Right on. I still have one trump card left to play, and I won't let this trial end until I use it. Let's do it. Let's go to the part where he talks about things not leaving the room. Yeah. Not one thing, you're sure?
Yep, sure as sure can be. Well, with one exception.
God damn it.
Journalist Spark Brushel does interview, leaves studio.
I was going to say that, actually, first. I was going to say you left, but then I said the letters because I figured that'd be more relevant, but my first thought might have been right on the money, which is usually the case. The first thing you think of, I didn't point it out because I didn't think it would matter, but hey. Did something leave the studio that night? Why does that sound familiar? Or have I heard something like that before? What? Now that we've proven our witness is a comedian of sorts, I'd like to turn to our defense attorney before returning to the testimony. Do you have any idea what, if anything, might have left the studio that night? So it's not him. That was a joke? Okay, so then it is the letters? I mean, either way. I thought one and I said another, so it's fine either way. I don't care. This is not a pride thing. I'm just trying to get through the case. By which you mean something other than our witness? Of course. Don't tell me. Vera Misham? No. Believe me, any comic relief I may provide is entirely unintentional. I believe it. Then let's see what you've got for us, Mr. Justice. Well, this thing wasn't at the scene of the crime, so I can't show it to you. This fucking yellow envelope that apparently exists? How it could have been taken. Okay, well then that's the letterbox. This is the only link between that studio and the outside world. A letterbox? What did Mr. Brushel just tell us? When he entered the studio on the night of the murder, the victim had just finished writing a letter.
Yeah, I said that, and yeah, it was true.
Furthermore, he went on to tell us that he put the letter in a yellow envelope and put it in the letterbox. Oh! But that very same letterbox was empty. In other words, that night the yellow envelope disappeared. Ah, yes, intriguing. So an envelope has disappeared from the scene of the crime. Of course, this changes nothing. Huh? He has a point, Mr. Justice. Does he? What we're trying to figure out here is how the poison got into Mr. Misham. Is it really important that this envelope the witness says he saw disappeared? Yep. Well, if it did disappear, then something did leave the studio that night. That seems very important to me. Very well, then, the witness will add this to his testimony.
You got it.
I still think this fails to change anything, Forehead. I wouldn't be so sure. A letter disappeared from the crime scene that night. This is exactly the opening I've been looking for. Alright, well, let's go and press it. Nothing could be more serious than an envelope disappearing from that studio. Well, I mean, there's other things, but you were hiding that fact from us.
Yes, well, actually.
I don't argue the possibility that a letter disappeared from that studio. But Forehead, isn't there a much more serious question before us? Right, how Mr. Misham was poisoned, I know. But Mr. Brushel's testimony has changed, which means the facts of the case have too. And what he's told us means something entirely different now. I'm starting to think.
Let's keep thinking, Apollo.
Okay. Should I present on it instead? How... I mean, we don't have any kind of yellow envelope. Let's just press other stuff instead, because, I don't know. Let's just press this one. You say clearly as though it were obvious. But this claim that the defendant poisoned the victim is merely conjecture.
Ah, yes, well, you see. In my business, it's all about making the most ridiculous things sound right. A bad habit, I know. Yes, well, actually, I guess this is more a case of ridiculous journalist sounds wrong.
The hell are we talking about? Okay. Well, that was nothing, I guess. That's kind of what you want from a testimony. I need to keep my eye on what matters. How and why was Drew Misham killed? Okay, so that was nothing. If that coffee didn't kill him, I need to find... Well, it wasn't the coffee, it was in the mug, but there's maybe something before that, I don't know. Okay, I started at the back. I pressed this. This was the one that was added. Let's do this next. You're sure about that?
Well, to be really, really precise, I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time.
One of those candies might have been poisoned. Yet at the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragrance of mint filled the room, and no mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. Don't tell me you're still trying to prove this. You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee? Well, Mr. Justice, if you have some proof... The possibility is there, I can feel it, just maybe not prove it, not yet. A possibility isn't going to cut it, not now. Mr. Misham ingested that poison via a route other than the coffee, through his asshole. I can prove it. Proof is possible. Here goes nothing. Okay. You do understand what we need, yeah? Proof, Forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. Oh, shit. What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope.
I saw him writing a letter. I did.
Which was picked up by the mailman, I assume. Of course. Which means... That envelope had a stamp on it. Yes, we discussed the stamp. As we all know, stamps come with dried glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it. Are you saying the stamp was poisoned? Thank God he went there, because I never would have thought of something like that. Thank you, game, for not asking me that one. By licking the stamp. Shit. Feh, no one worth talking to actually licks stamps in this day and age. Don't judge people for what they lick. Even if you wanted to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead after all. Okay, so he licked the stamp, but wait. How does that explain the atroquinine on the rim of the coffee mug? It's a ruse! So if he licked the back of a... Oh, that too. Okay. So it wasn't a misdirection. It wasn't the killer trying to trick us. Probably. What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth? Those traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing, it was the other way around. What? The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Misham. Mr. Misham poisoned the coffee mug. Arrest him for murder! Oh wait, he's dead. Mr. Misham poisoned the coffee mug himself. But that doesn't... does it? Recall, if you would. Atroquinine is a slow-acting poison, yes? The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on the envelope, but his time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to that cup of joe. So it just happened to take effect at the exact moment that he was going to take a drink, which made Spark Brushel think that the coffee poisoned him immediately, but it didn't. The stamp was poisoned. That's pretty crazy. You have something to add, Mr. Brushel? Uh-oh, his nose is picking up another scent.
As I believe I mentioned earlier. Well, that's the thing. See, after he put his letter in the envelope, Mr. Misham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. A stamp, a so-called postage stamp. I don't seem to remember him ever finding one.
Well, he must have. Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There were no stamps, not a single one. Maybe it's related to the tiny little picture frame. That's like the size where you could have a stamp in there. I don't know why you'd have a stamp in a picture frame, but fuck it. That does poison. And wasn't there poison on that? That's totally the answer. I don't know why, but it is. Like, I don't know why there would be a stamp on there, but it's whatever. It makes proving the stamp what he used was poison possible. Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. I have a tiny picture frame. Here you go. Poisoned as fuck, dude. Well, that certainly is a cute little frame. And by little, I mean really little. Thank you, Judge. It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself. I noticed that too during my inspection, so what? Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important. Missing something? Yes, a pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. Atroquinine residue! What? Why wasn't I told about this? The frame is only 2 inches square. The face of the frame is even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at most. You aren't saying. Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? So maybe the stamp wasn't poisoned, the frame was poisoned, and the stamp was on the frame, and then the stamp went to his mouth, which went to the cup, and then, yeah. Whole chain reaction. A commemorative stamp. Oh, it was commemorative. That's why it was framed. And he's like, I'm freaking out. I gotta get a stamp on it real quick, because this guy just walked in, so he just grabbed that one. What was it? Why would it... Commemorative stamp? What was it commemorating? Why a stamp? The poison stamp was in this frame? Impossible. Prosecutor Gavin, why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck.
You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see?
What, Mr. Brushel? And please stop jittering around like that.
The victim was a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends, makes enemies too.
I mean, yeah, no shit. Like, we're not actually going with the suicide thing. That's stupid, so what else did you think? You mean to tell me the thing that killed him was meant to kill him? It's fucking crazy, bro. Oh, rich. That's rich. Leave the ridiculous flights of fancy to the Gaviner's song lyrics, please. Finally, something we agree on. The stamp was a murder weapon? Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? I mean, it's not like it's fucking... It's not like he killed him with a stuffed teddy bear. He killed him with poison. The fact that the poison was on a stamp, like, doesn't make it more far-fetched, really. I mean, kinda, but it's not that out there. Oh, I disagree. Come again. Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. Drew Misham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail. Excuse me. Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew read letters, a bomb would probably work just fine, or like a gun through a window, or I don't know if he had windows, but a stamp works too. Where's your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon. I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together. What is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling. I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Misham was killed. He licked the fucking stamp. We've been over this. A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Misham the stamp of death. They put it in the mail. Either the letter box or the envelope. I don't want to look at the contents. I wanted to look at the envelope. Gosh dang. Okay. I mean, they sent it in the mail. So here, I mean, if it was specifically on this, then yes, but I don't know if it was, so I'm going to go with the more broad answer and just say this, and if that's wrong, then I'll do the red letter. Media. I'm not sure it's entirely clear to me what this proves, Mr. Justice. Okay, well, that didn't work out. Except the killer would be a judge and the victim you. Uh-huh. Harsh. I thought plenty. I just thought wrong. Alright, well, here you go. Isn't this the envelope? The one from 7 years ago? Think about the text of the letter again. I wanted to look at the envelope, but maybe I should have looked at the letter. Sign the papers. Send it. With the enclosed stamp. Oh, I really should have read it. Okay, well. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. Does that mean whoever sent that... Does that mean they tried to kill him 7 years ago? And it just now happened? I don't think so.
In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison on the stamp, lick, lick, gasp, end quote.
Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked?
He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letterbox.
15 minutes would have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath. And the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene. Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system. Those damn mailmen, I always knew they were trouble. Rain, nor sleet, nor whatever. It was always fishy. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poisoned stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago. Yeah? Is that what you'd have us believe, really? Is he going to bring up the thing that I just said? It is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility. Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poisoned stamp in this envelope? A stamp that then became the murder weapon? Well, the poison is the murder weapon. Can we please stop conflating the stamp? Like, I get it, but you're making it sound silly. The poison is what did it. How do you intend to prove this seeming coincidence? Well, it was 7 years ago, and we don't even know who sent that letter. And your answer is silence. I see very well. I move to. What? Who? What? What? Ah!